Hey everybody, it's Matt. Welcome back to the Journey Church podcast. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you can automatically get our weekly episodes. And you might want to go ahead and subscribe to our Journey YouTube channel as well. You'll find messages, music, interviews, inspiring stories, and more for you all right there. Now, I hope this episode helps you take your next step in following Jesus. All right, what I want to do today is start with a really irrelevant question, which is not the way to start a sermon, by the way, but I'm going to do it anyway, okay? It's a really irrelevant question. The reason I say it's irrelevant is because, well, I don't even know if you'll be able to answer it, okay? Because it's been a long time since it's happened to most of us. But I'm going to ask the question anyway. The question is simply, when's the last time you were lost? See, it's irrelevant because now we have navigation apps. So for those of you who are under 40, here's what I want to encourage you to do today. Catch one of the people around here over 40. You say, how do I know? I just take a guess, all right? And if they're under 40 and you pick them, that's going to be an awkward conversation. But anyway, find somebody here over 40 and ask them what it was like back in the 1900s, all right? Before there were navigation apps. Because I will tell you, all of us over 40 were pros at getting lost back in those days. There are people around here who actually drove with a Rand McNally Atlas on their laps, and they were trying to drive and follow the map at the same time. It's very dangerous. I remember more having the printout of the MapQuest directions. Some of you remember that? It's like, okay, that was also dangerous. But anyway, you don't get lost much anymore because you have navigation apps. But my wife and I are overachievers. So last night as I was reflecting on this, I thought, you know what? My wife and I actually just got ourselves lost not too long ago. I will tell you this story. So it was not in a car. We were in a national park. You know, there's not much cell service in a national park. And we love hiking. We enjoy doing a lot of that stuff. We don't care how strenuous it is. We'll tackle whatever. So we had decided to hike this trail. I had forgotten to download all the trail maps on my phone before we got into the park and lost reception. But it shouldn't be a big deal. There are maps there, and we had maps there, and we had, there's signs and everything. So I wasn't really worried about it. So we go to this place. We go early in the morning because it's a popular trail, and it's just about a 2-mile hike to this abandoned gold mine, okay? So we're like, all right. So we park and get ourselves ready and grab the backpack and all that. And I'm not going to tell you which one of us picked the trailhead, but it wasn't me. My wife said, hey, right here's where we go. And I just, as I always do, I just listened to what she said and followed. You know, that's how you have a great marriage. So anyway, she might refute that. Don't ask her. So anyway, I just followed her along. We took off on this trail. It was a moderate difficulty. It wasn't a big deal. It's 2 miles. And we had a lot of trails we wanted to hit, so we are clipping it at a really good pace, like a really good pace. And we're going and going. We hit the mile mark, no big deal. We hit the second mile mark, and we don't see a gold mine anywhere, an abandoned mine. We're like, well, that's odd, but I'm tracking on my watch, and maybe it's not exactly accurate. So we keep going 2.5 miles. We hit the 3-mile mark. We still haven't seen it. And one of the things we notice is this trail is getting extremely difficult. Like, I don't want to be dramatic about it, but it was significant elevation change in the wrong direction for us. We're headed up, and we're getting in the mountains, and there's, the trail's getting more difficult, and we're still clipping at the same pace, and we're wondering, well, what have we done wrong? What have we done wrong? I don't know. Maybe we just misunderstood something. So we keep going. And it gets to the point we hit 4 miles. We still hadn't seen the mine. At which point you're like, I know what you're thinking. You're like, what, the 2-mile mark? Why didn't you turn around? Because we're stubborn. That's why. I'm just being honest. Like, we kept looking at each other. 2 mile, 3 mile, 4 mile. You want to turn around? And we're like, no, we're going to find this mine. We don't care what, you're thinking, well, what if it wasn't on the trail? Yeah, we didn't think that. We were just going to keep going. So we just kept on, and you're wondering, why didn't you look at a map? Well, because I said, hey, let me grab the map from the park out of my backpack, and she was like, oh, I don't think I put that in your backpack. So we're completely blind, okay? We're completely blind. But we're too stubborn to stop. So we keep going. We begin eventually to see people, like, no joke. These are the first times we've seen people. And we're headed straight up this mountain. First time we're seeing people, they are all coming down the mountain. None of them are breathing hard. None of them seem like they have broken a sweat. We have definitely broken a sweat. I have removed layers. Like, it's been a hike. And so I decide I'm just going to check. So first couple I meet, we only met like 3 couples. First couple I meet, I'm like, hey, how far are we from the gold mine? And they looked at me with the strangest look. And they said, well, you'll see it eventually. which is not encouraging, but they didn't tell us anything else. Just you'll see it eventually. We're like, okay, we're going to keep going. Meet the second couple. How close are we to the goal? They're like, the second couple's like, you get up over the hill, which was the top of the mountain, and you'll see it. And we're like, that was an odd response. But nobody's telling us anything like turn around or, hey, here's what you got in front of you. Long story short, there are two ways to get to the gold mine. There was a 2-mile easy hike way, and there was a big, what turned out to be 7-mile loop that we took. And let me just promise you, the views were great. The gold mine did not deliver. An abandoned gold mine is an abandoned gold mine. There's nothing to it. It's not really worth it. 7-mile hike, we went the wrong way, and I'm being a little dramatic, but it was basically uphill the whole way, 7-mile hike that we did in under 3 hours because we never slowed down. And we got to the end of it, and I realized, you know what? We are really stubborn, and we are really persistent. We are not really smart, which y'all already knew probably, but we just discovered that, And part of the reason we weren't smart is because we hiked so far down this trail, confident we were doing the right thing, when we were going the wrong way the whole time. And this is actually something that's worth paying attention to in life. See, there is a big difference. There's a big difference between getting lost and being lost. Being lost is the moment that you realize, I am not where I'm supposed to be, and I'm not sure how to get there. Getting lost is the process along the way where you're absolutely confident you're doing the right thing and going the right direction, and people can't convince you otherwise. You're lost, you just don't know you're lost. Which means self-assurance is no insurance against getting lost in life. Jen and I were so confident as we took off on that hike. We were going the wrong way from the first step. We were totally confident we were doing the right thing. And sometimes in life, we're going a certain direction, and we are so confident and self-assured we're doing the right thing, when the whole time we are getting ourselves lost, and we don't even know it. This has probably happened to most, if not all of us, who at some point in life have gotten lost morally. You know what it looks like to get lost morally? When you wake up one day and you're kind of looking at the decisions you made and the things you've done, and you realize, oh my gosh, the past me, the me a year ago, the me 5 years ago, whatever it is, like that me said, I have these values and these convictions, and I will never, and now here I am, and I have compromised all of that and convinced myself it's okay, and I'm doing the very thing I said I would never do, or I've become the person I said I would never be. You got yourself lost morally, confident that you were going to be just fine. That, this may not work out for other people, but it'll be good for me. I bet some of us know what it feels like to be lost professionally, where you do all the right thing, jump through all the hoops, and, get all the degrees or whatever you have to do, and you get to where you want to get professionally, only to wake up one day and realize, I don't want to be where I've always said I want to be. I don't even like what I'm doing now. That's what it feels like to be lost professionally. And you're going, I don't know. I don't know what to do. But if you stop and reflect on it, isn't it true? You were so confident you were making all the right choices all the way up until the point when you realized, I think I messed up. All of us have been here. It's what it feels like to be lost relationally, where you get in a relationship and another relationship and another relationship, and you're like, why does the same thing keep happening to me? Why do I always end up with the same kind of people? But you're confident in all of your decisions. You don't realize you're just getting lost over and over and over again. Or you find yourself, for those of us who are married, you find yourself thinking about your marriage going, wait a minute. How did we end up here? We never planned or intended to have this kind of marriage. We're nowhere close to the kind of marriage we want to have. And I don't even know what to do to get back to the kind of marriage we used to have or wanted to have. That's what it feels like to be lost relationally. And all that self-assurance we had, this is so important, all of that confidence we had we were doing the right things, is no insurance against getting lost in any area of life, which means we could be getting lost in some areas of life right now, and we don't even know it. We could be making decisions right now. They're taking us in a direction we don't want to go, but we're not even aware of it. We're confident we're doing the right thing. That's why this is so dangerous in all areas of life, including the one I want to talk about for the next couple of weeks. For the next 2 Sundays, we're going to talk about a topic that is sensitive. It's a sensitive topic. I get that. It's what happens when you realize you're lost financially. You're lost financially. Now, just to be clear, you can be lost financially and have a little bit of money, and you can be lost financially and have a whole lot of money. The amount of money you have does not play into this in any way. But it is so hard. I hear stories, it's part of my job. I get the privilege of hearing the stories of hundreds and thousands of people over the years. And one of the things that I've realized is we all have a tendency, 1, to get lost and not realize we were getting lost, and 2, this usually plays a part in most of the stories that we hear. That there is a financial component to it that has contributed to the problem. And it is so hard to see. It is so hard to admit, and it is so hard to change. So just so you know where this is going, at the end of the day, my whole goal is this. I want to give you a bunch of statements to help you evaluate for yourself whether you might be lost financially, but you haven't been aware of it. Because the sooner you figure it out, the sooner you can turn around. Before I do that, though, I just want to address the tension that this topic creates. I'm going to take a wild guess that not a one of you woke up this morning and went, I hope Matt talks about money today. Nobody's doing that, right? Matter of fact, some of you are like, I don't even think church and money ought to mix, and you've had situations with pastors that just make, I get all that. So you're so cynical and skeptical. I totally understand that. And part of the reason I know that, and this is not the norm, but this happens every time I talk about money, some comments will float back, and it's just not from most people, but I get it if you feel this way. Comments will float back, and I thought, you know what, instead of you having to say the thing that's about to pop in your mind, that's already popped in your mind, I'm just going to say it for you, okay? Because some of you are sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, Matt's talking about money too much. Or this is the next step. This is the one I really like. When they say, well, I'm not going back to church, all Matt talks about is money. And I want to be like, I have a pretty good audit on my content, but anyway, I get it. Because it's such a sensitive topic, you just don't want the two to mix, and pastors have poor motivations sometimes and approach it in the wrong way, and that, reflects on all of us. So I totally understand that if you feel all that. So why would I talk about it? Well, not because I love criticism. That's not shocking, is it? Nobody loves criticism. So I'm not talking about, every time I stand up here and we talk about money and what God says about money, I know I'm going to get criticized. So it's not because I enjoy that. And it's not because I'm trying to get something from you. I will put everybody at ease. Guess what? There is no offering at the end of this today. None. Everybody can relax. So I'm not going to ask for a penny from you, okay? So there's none of that. That's not why. I'm willing to talk about it, even though I know, somebody's going to question my integrity and character, and somebody's going to question my motive, and somebody's going to criticize. I'm willing to do it anyway, not because I want anything from you. It's because I really do want something for you. As I said, I hear story after story after story after story. And you know what's at the heart or close to the heart of so many of the issues and challenges? It's that somebody's lost financially. And if you're lost financially, it's not even a criticism of you because you don't know any different. It's all that's been modeled to you. But if you're lost financially, I guarantee you it's impacting every area of your life. And according to the most recent statistics, it's a lot of us who are struggling with this. Just a simple example. Last year, they released a study of Americans, and here are a few things that they discovered. Over 50% of all Americans are living paycheck to paycheck right now. That's tough. 54% of Americans don't have enough savings to cover 3 months of living expenses. So no emergency fund over here. If something pops up, you're in trouble. It's going to take you under. Almost 60% of Americans couldn't cover a $1,000 unexpected expense. You're not going to find this one hard to believe. About 50% worry daily about money. You're like, yep, that's a lot of us. 33% of Americans paid a bill late in the past 3 months. So, it dominates our lives in ways we don't even realize. It dominates our thinking. It dominates the decisions we make. So we believe, you've heard me say this a million times, we believe, and I've experienced this myself, following Jesus will make your life better and make you better at life. But if you're lost financially, just like if you're lost in any other area of life, you don't get to experience a better life. You cost yourself what God actually is inviting you into. So I feel like it would be, and this may be a strong term, it would be pastoral negligence on my part not to talk about something so central to how we're living and the impact it's having on our lives and relationships and families. It would also be pastoral negligence on my part because, well, my job is to teach you what Jesus taught. That's really my job. Here's what Jesus said. Here's how you live it out. It's pretty simple. And you may be surprised by this, but when you look at the 4 accounts of Jesus' life, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you can do this research for yourself if you don't believe me, or ask AI. I don't care. However you get it. Jesus actually taught about money. He talked about money more than he did heaven, hell, prayer, and faith combined. Combined. Why would he do that? Because he knew the impact, and you're going to see this in a second. He knew the impact that our financial world has on our spiritual world, has on our relational world, has on our professional world, has on our character. He knew the impact it had. So that's why we're going to talk about the next couple weeks. Not trying to get anything out of you. We're just going to talk about Jesus' plan for how to be unlost financially, because he gave us a really simple plan. Next week, I'm going to show you what that is. First, I have to introduce why Jesus talked about this so much. And I debated about this because this may be the statement that makes you angry or upset or whatever. If you're a Jesus follower in particular, if you're not, you picked an awesome Sunday to come because none of this really applies to you. So you can pick and choose what you want. But for us Jesus followers, Jesus taught something that's a little offensive. And this, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you up front because then it gets better after this, okay? And if this bothers you, I get it. Like if you go home and you're like, that's not true and I can't believe Matt's trying to manipulate. Okay, just go ahead and say all that you want. Send me all the emails you want. Jared@journeycalway.com. They'll get straight to me. So glad he let me speak today, by the way, guys. Anyway, no, here's the thing. You process through all the emotion. That's fine. But what I would encourage you to do is once you process through all the emotion, go back and reflect on this. Because this might be the thing that's holding up your relationship with God and you've never been able to put your finger on it. Here's what Jesus taught over and over and over again to his followers, not to everybody, to his followers. He said this. He said that you cannot fully follow Jesus and be lost financially. And none of us like this because we want to take our money and our possessions and put it over here and act like it doesn't have a significant impact on the rest of our lives, and particularly our spiritual life. Because it's a lot more comfortable if you can separate these two. But Jesus did not allow us to separate them. He actually said they were intertwined. They were interdependent. It is impossible to fully follow Jesus and be lost financially. It is as impossible as if I stand up here right now and tell you how much I love Jesus and look you in the eye and say, but I hate you and I can't stand you. You would say, nope, those two things are impossible. That can't both be true. You're right. In the same way, Jesus said, it cannot be true that you are lost financially in some way and you are fully devoted and surrendered to me. It can't be true, which makes all of us uncomfortable because we want to keep the spiritual and the material separated as much as possible. Why would Jesus say you can't do that? Well, in his most famous teaching, we call it the Sermon on the Mount. You've all heard parts of this teaching, whether you're a Jesus follower or not, because some of this has become part of common cultural phrases. Right in the middle of this teaching, he addressed his approach and his perspective on our money and possessions. And I'm going to read it all to you. He talked about, hey, you shouldn't store up treasure on earth because you'll lose it all. You should store up treasure in heaven. I'm not even going to talk to you about that part. But the reason he taught all of that is because this is what he knew to be true. He said this, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. In other words, Jesus talked about money more than heaven, hell, prayer, and faith combined because Jesus knew that where my money goes, my heart follows, that they're interconnected, that wherever I put my money, I can't keep my heart from not getting dragged along behind it. And I start caring about, having desires for, being passionate about the things where my money and my possessions are. He goes on to say this: no one can serve two masters. Either you're going to hate the one, you're going to love the other, you're going to be devoted to one, despise the other. And then he makes this really odd statement. You cannot serve both God and money. In other words, Jesus is insinuating, I am aware that God's chief competitor for your heart is your money. Now, this is actually encouraging in a way, because you know what this indicates? It indicates for us exactly what Jesus cares about most. And what Jesus wants most from you is not your money. Let me just remind you, by the way, if you believe Jesus is who he said he was and he wanted your money, he doesn't have to ask your permission. He's got enough power just to take it all, okay? So if he wanted, he would get it. That's not what he's after. What Jesus cares about most is your heart and my heart. In other words, for us to be in a relationship with him where there is such deep trust that we are fully committed and surrendered to him as he is fully committed to us, and there is a trust there that makes the relationship so personal. That's what matters. And so, because of that, he says, I know wherever your money goes, your heart's going to follow, so you can't be lost financially and be fully surrendered and committed to me. You can't be lost financially and have a relationship with me that is that personal. There's no way you can give me your whole heart if you're ignoring what I say about money. Because where your money goes, your heart follows. So here's what I want to do as we wrap up. I'm going to read a bunch of statements. I'm going to do it really fast. I'm going to read a bunch of statements that give you an opportunity to self-evaluate and me an opportunity to self-evaluate. Because if any of these statements are true about you, you just might be lost financially, but not even know it, because you're so confident and self-assured right now that you're doing things the way you ought to do things. So, here we go. You ready? A little quiz. If you spend more than you make in a year, if you don't know if you're spending more than you make in a year, or this is for some of you, if you don't care that you're spending more than you make in a year, okay, you could be lost financially. Probably are. If you owe more on your car than your car is worth, that's called being upside down on your car. You just might be lost financially. This is a little more personal. If you carry credit card debt from month to month, or paying the monthly minimum on your credit card is normal, or if you think paying the monthly minimum on your credit card is good financial planning, it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but the reality is, listen, this is not a criticism, because some of you, most of us, we just do what's been modeled for us. So some of you don't know any better. You don't know any different, because you're just doing what you grew up watching, what's been modeled for you. Nobody's taught you a better way. That's okay. But now you can find out a better way. We talked about this one earlier, but if you live paycheck to paycheck, if you don't have enough money or savings to cover a $1,000 unexpected expense, if you don't have enough saved to cover 3 months of operating expenses, if you're not adequately saving for future retirement, you might be lost. If you don't know how much debt you have, you're like, I have no idea. If you have no method of tracking where your money goes, you're like, I don't know what I spent it on month to month. I have no idea where it went. If you're making financial decisions that you hope others don't discover, if you're making financial decisions you hope the IRS doesn't discover, I hope you love orange or pinstripes, because that's where you're headed on that one. This is where it really gets personal. If you worry often about money, doesn't matter if you have a little or a lot. For those of you who have a little, you think when you have a lot, you will not worry about money. I can introduce you to people who have a lot and they worry about their money all the time. If you worry about money. For those of you who are in a long-term relationship, you're married, if you fight frequently about money, or if you don't talk with your spouse about money, we just don't even talk about it. We don't. Every time we do, it ends up in a fight, so we don't even talk about it. You may be lost. Probably are. If you and your spouse have two different financial plans, you just do your deal and I'll just do my deal, because again, we don't want to fight and we can't talk about it. So you do your deal, I'll do my deal. If you and your spouse view money as yours and mine and not ours, and then to Jesus' perspective, if you see yourself as the owner and not the manager of your money and possessions, Because Jesus said you can't be unlost financially until you realize you're not an owner, till you treat everything like you're here to manage it, to steward it well. If you don't prioritize giving a percentage of your income away, because this is what Jesus said was his top priority. If you want to learn to manage it well, you got to learn to be generous. You might be lost financially. And here's why I'm willing to bring this up, even though it makes people uncomfortable and, I hear the stuff. Because I know this, and I don't have to convince you of this. You know this. If you are lost financially, you don't have peace. And peace is actually what you really want to have. You don't have financial freedom. If God taps you on the heart and says, hey, I want you to go do this, you don't necessarily have the freedom financially to be able to go and do what God's purpose for you is. It's costing you connection if you're lost financially. Do I need to make a case for that? When you're lost financially, does it have an impact on the relationships with the people closest to you? Of course, all that worry does. You're losing contentment. Not ambition. You can have all the ambition in the world and still be content, but you've lost contentment. You don't have any joy. Because generosity generates joy in the human heart. Greed never does. And most of all, if you're lost financially, you're missing out on the opportunity to experience God's faithfulness, his goodness, his love, his power, his presence in your life in ways you can't experience any other way. And if you're not following God's approach and plan for your finances, I know that you're like, I don't even buy that. I get that. And there's no way for me to convince you without you just trying it. But there are some things about God, I'm just telling you from experience, there's some things about God that you cannot learn or know about him or experience with him in any other way than surrendering your money and possessions to him. But our money and possessions are usually the last thing we're willing to surrender. Which is why Jesus said, you can't follow me fully and be lost financially. Because where your money goes, it drags your heart away from me and towards that. So, here's what I want to invite you to do. This week, do a little self-evaluation. If some of these are true for you, just start thinking about it. Maybe you're lost, but you've been confident you were good, and you need to have enough self-awareness to acknowledge it. And then I want to invite you to take a second step, which is to have an honest conversation about it with somebody you trust. Why? Because when one of your friends gets lost in an area of life, you typically know it before they do, don't you? And I bet somebody you trust sees you're getting lost, even though you're not aware of it. And they might have a really healthy perspective to help you. If you're lost, you can't get unlost until you're aware you're lost. So be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. And let's figure out if there aren't some changes we need to make so that we can experience the better life that God invites us to live. Some changes we can make that'll help us experience the peace, connection, contentment, freedom, and joy that we all want. Let me pray for us. Jesus, we are so grateful that what you most want from us is our heart, that what you care about most deeply is having a relationship with us. That's why you died and rose again, to pay the penalty for our sins. It's why you invite us to do everything you invite us to do, because you have our best interests at heart. So help us to be aware this week as we're evaluating if maybe we've gotten lost but don't yet know we're lost. Help us to see it. Help us to have the courage to have some honest conversations with ourselves, with somebody we trust. And most of all, help us to do the next right thing, because that's an expression of trust which moves our heart closer to you. That's in your name we pray. Amen. Hey, if you'd like more content like this, subscribe to our YouTube channel and download our Journey app to access all of our recent message content. And our app is the easiest way to share this content with a friend. For more information on our church or to find our app or our YouTube channel, just visit journeycalway.com. That's journeycalway.com. Thanks for listening.